Welcome back to the Restaurant Rockstars podcast. I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for tuning in. My conversation with Tom Kraus, the CEO of Donato's Pizza, was just off the charts on point. Tom and I had so much in common to start, but his operating philosophies and best practices and everything he shared is so applicable to running your business today. And I was so excited, but you know what an acronym is? An acronym is where letters spell out individual words, and when you put them together, they really mean something powerful. Well, Tom has an acronym, which is APE. And that stands for A, where A equals alignment, and P is for plan, and E equals execution. And I believe this is applicable to any restaurant, your business, and really life in general. So we talked all about that in addition to marketing and finance and dialing in costs, but delivering value. There's a super value proposition here at Donato's, as well as, best practices and how to get the most out of your team. We talked about leadership, just all the things that we feel are super vital in business today to deliver amazing guest experiences. And that's what it's really all about. Thank you so much, Tom, and thanks to our sponsors for tuning in. And also, we talked about systems. So if systems are important in your business, check out the Restaurant Rockstars Academy. It's literally a tool, a training tool where you can give access to up to 25 employees within a location and teach them how to run your business as if they owned your business. And that is a very powerful formula. So you're not going to want to miss this episode. Please stay tuned.
You're tuned in to the Restaurant Rockstars podcast. Powerful ideas to rock your restaurant. Here's your host, Roger Bodwin.
Rockstars, there are many elements to consider when growing your restaurant. Are you connecting with your guests enough and with the right message? Could your kitchen put out more orders than your dining area has room for? Well, it can be overwhelming, especially when the reason you got into this business was for the people and the food. That's why restaurants get Pop Menu. Now, Pop Menu is the marketing tech platform designed to make growing your restaurant easy, so you don't have to grow it alone. With Pop Menu, you can capture more guests and their preferences through your website that's designed to easily collect data and info so you can see what your guests love and why they dine with you. Connect and build authentic relationships with guests by using modern technology that personalizes your marketing. Make all your systems work better together, improve margins, and conquer the chaos of your restaurant's digital presence. Now, Pop Menu has a special offer for my listeners. Get $100 off your first month, plus lock in one unchanging monthly rate at popmenu.com/rockstars. Again, go now to get $100 off your first month at popmenu.com/rockstars. True hospitality and guest convenience are vital in your restaurant. I'm proud to say that for 23 years, my restaurants provided both with paging equipment by JTech. We used guest and server pagers, and my teams could not have delivered great dining experiences without them. JTech systems help you run a great restaurant. Now, JTech pagers are reliable, durable, easy to set up and operate. Guest pagers increase sales and give guests peace of mind knowing they'll be called when their table's ready. Staff pagers notify when orders are up, fresh, and ready, and save time by eliminating the need for servers to check on orders. JTech also offers Motorola two-way radio solutions, QR code virtual paging, reservations management, curbside notifications, and coming soon, Linkware, a wearable watch-like smartband that can receive messages and tasks from the JTech Linkware application. Now, I saw this product at a recent food show, and it's really cool. To learn more and get a special offer from JTech exclusively for my listeners, go to www.jtech.com/rockstars. That's spelled JTECH.com/rockstars. Tom, how are you today? Welcome to the show. So glad you're here.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Well, you're an illustrious guest being the CEO of Donato's. Everyone's heard of Donato's, arguably one of the leading pizza chains, and we're going to cover all about success stories. But as my audience know, I love to go back and see where hospitality began for you. So take us there.
Wow, where did hospitality begin for me? You know what? Probably my very first job, I was 13 years old, and I was hired as the shoe shine boy for a golf club where I grew up. And You say hospitality? Is it hospitality? Well, in many ways, I was serving all the men in the men's locker room, and I was trying to get them. I was trying to drum up business. So I was actually learned a lot about just interacting with people and selling. I ended up making way more money than the caddies did. I made a lot more money than anybody else that was working, like in the restaurant, even there. So I started, I guess you'd call it more of a sales oriented kind of position. I worked as a dishwasher in 3 different restaurants when I was 15. And then probably my first kind of full on restaurant front of house jobs. I worked for TGI Fridays as a busboy, and this was in the heyday. So this was like, I say heyday meaning that when the bar was like the place to be, and it was a place where guys and girls met, and it was like 4 deep on a Friday night at the bar at Fridays. So I was the inventive busboy who figured out that mostly guys were trying to impress the girls, and they were buying them drinks, and they'd pull money out of their pockets, and it would all fall on the ground. So I took, the broom and dustpan, the handled
Oh
broom and
yeah, yeah,
dustpan.
yeah, exactly. Flip that
I
down, take the broom, sweep it in, dump it in the trash thing. Yeah.
I put
Uh-huh.
I put a pen light onto the broom handle,
Hmm.
so that when I'd say, and they were like, "You don't need to sweep during the rush." I go, "Oh, that's all right. I'll go in there and let me clean up." And I'd turn that light on, and I'd find money, and I'd sweep up. I'd make about $25 just sweeping up. So I don't know if I've told you yet about hospitality, but I certainly told you about salesmanship and hustle. Let's put it that
You
way.
know, it's so interesting you say that because our backgrounds are very similar. I started my very first job at a country club. It was a private club. And similar to you mentioning the locker room, it's like this was the private clubhouse, and they'd come in after the first round of golf for lunch, and it's the 19th hole, they call it. And now I'm serving them drinks, and I very quickly got to know all their names. And it's
Heck,
yes,
you,
sir, and
of
Mr.
course
So
you
and
did.
so, sir.
You
And, and,
bet.
and I got to know what their favorite drink was, and I'd have it poured before they got within 10 feet of the bar. And that was hospitality. And I didn't do it because they trained me to do it. I just felt this personal point of pride, maybe to deliver what I consider to be great service to the members. And I was rewarded handsomely for that, as you were.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Isn't that cool how that
yeah,
works though? Because you
absolutely.
learn at a very early age that if I connect with, and it's not like you were faking it. I mean, you were connecting
No,
with.
I was genuine. It was
Yeah,
relationship building
for
because
sure.
I think even back then, like I'm a big networker now, and that's one of the
Yeah,
reasons why we get so many great guests on the podcast. But literally back then, who knew where these relationships would lead? Knowing prominent people, business people in the community, it led to future jobs. It led to other, recommendations for colleges, all that kind of stuff. It was great.
what did happen? Did you have any good stories of anybody that you met early on that showed up later in your life in a big way?
Yeah, there was a guy who was he was the managing director of a large real estate company, and he gave me a job throughout college that was a pretty great job. I studied business in college, and so I got some ground floor experience in marketing and business
Yeah,
relations while I was in college. So yeah, that was one of the members,
yeah,
and I
for
still
sure.
remember him to this day. Great guy. So it really is about that, and that is hospitality, really. But it is, I
Sure.
think I have to emphasize unfortunately, when we go out to restaurants today, service levels have slipped for a variety of reasons. The pandemic and the labor crisis and all of that. And unfortunately, restaurants have not been able to deliver as much on the value proposition, being short staffed. But where I'm going with is it's unfortunate that there's sometimes a sense of entitlement where, tipped employees think that just because they're bringing the food, they deserve a 20% tip. And it's not about service. It's just about going through the motions of the job, and I'm entitled to a tip. And I've
Yeah,
never believed that. I've always believed that a gratuity is earned. And if you deliver exemplary service, then you deserve a nice tip. And if you fall short and it's your fault, then you don't. And we
yeah.
see this every day today. So, service is paramount in our business, as you know. And we'll be talking all about your service philosophies also. What
Well,
happened then? Tell us about your career.
so I went to Ohio State, and I initially majored in elementary education. I've always been like as a playground leader. I was a little league football coach. I really enjoyed and still do enjoy kind of boiling concepts down and teaching people things. In fact, that's what I really do in my job today is I can try to connect with people. And man, if you can connect with 12-year-old boys who are going through hormonal changes on a football team,
Hmm.
you could
Right.
probably connect with people in business later on in life. So
Yes.
anyway, but I thought I wanted to be in elementary school. In fact, so I majored my first 2 years in elementary education, and then I read a survey about the salaries that you can get as a teacher versus other things. I said, I think maybe I'll go a different direction. So I ended up really going the route of marketing and business. So I majored in business marketing at Ohio State, got a degree there, and ended up working for ad agencies for the first third of my career. So
Oh, wow.
and interestingly, most of the most impactful clients that I had were in the food business. So that kind of brought me into restaurants from a brand side, less about an operations side, but more, understanding customers, understanding what motivates customers, understanding how you get their attention. Certainly, how do you get them to come back? That kind of a thing really started from working for ad agency. We had a couple of food accounts, and then I left this initial agency and ended up being partners with another guy that was at the agency. So at age 24, I was a partner in a small communications firm in Columbus, Ohio.
One more thing in common. I worked in advertising in Los Angeles. I was an account executive on the Acura car business.
Is that right? What agency was it?
It was called Ketchum
Oh,
Communications.
sure. Yeah, I
Yeah,
can catch them real well.
Ketchum, LA had an office on Wilshire Boulevard. I think they were based in Pennsylvania, probably in Philadelphia, if
In
memory serves.
Philadelphia.
But
That's exactly right.
this was 1990 to 1993, so this
Yeah.
takes me back a ways. But yeah, similar. Getting marketing experience was essential to a business career, and I had a great time, a great experience, and learned quite a bit. And account executive, you're in there between the creative side and the account side, and dealing with the client and presenting creative work and trying to sell it forward. And it was awesome, great experience.
Yeah, and you're also if you can try, you have to boil down. Let's use a 30-second television commercial as an
Yes.
example.
Hmm.
You have to understand what problem you're solving. You have to boil down that communication, that selling that unique point of difference in a short period of time that's compelling enough to get someone to act. If you can figure that out on a pretty consistent basis, you can probably lead a company, you could lead a department, you could lead a store. I
Absolutely
think
true.
I think it really gets you to think kind of sequentially. What problem am I trying to solve? And then how do I quickly get people motivated to get to that point? So I thought it was tremendous. We started our little agency. Our One of our first big accounts was we were hired by the local co-op, McDonald's co-op in Columbus, Ohio. So McDonald's always their public relations for efforts were always part of their traditional agency of record. So they didn't have a separate PR firm. We were the first PR only firm that they had hired anywhere in the country. Why, you ask? Well, it took us a little while to figure it out, but they wanted to stick it to Wendy's in their home market. That's
Oh,
why
no kidding. Oh, I see
they
that.
found this young and hungry, and we were young and
Yeah.
hungry
Yeah.
PR firm to get noticed in Wendy's. Call it the competitive nature of restaurants. I don't know, but so we ended up, we did a real good job. I remember we introduced salads when McDonald's introduced salads. We held a wedding between a guy dressed up in a salad and a girl dressed up in a salad dressing on the Oval at campus at Ohio State. Got a whole bunch of publicity. We kept getting all these stories, and then about a year later, we slowly start picking up these different accounts. We pick up local shoe store. We pick up a leasing company. We pick up a rust proofing company. We're like, hey, we're doing good picking up all this business. Come to find out, I look into some of the financial backing of all these new accounts, and Dave Thomas's
Hmm.
investment company was
Yeah.
a part of all these accounts.
Oh, wow.
Well, as it turns out, Dave, as a classic entrepreneur, is going to solve three problems with one move. So Wendy, Pigtail Wendy, was
Uh-huh. Yep.
graduating from marketing from
That was his
university.
daughter, right?
That's his daughter. I went to high
Sure.
school with her actually, but
No kidding. There's a
yeah,
claim to fame. Oh,
yeah.
wow.
And she was graduating from University of Florida
Yeah.
in marketing. So his thought was, I'll get these guys out of my hair. I'll buy their agency. Wendy will be their CEO, and they'll quit doing a bunch of PR for McDonald's all at once.
Oh, that's an awesome
Isn't that
story.
great?
That is fantastic.
It,
Wow,
it
you can't
never
make that stuff up.
happened. We ended up picking up more and more McDonald's business, and then the agency dissolved, and we went our different ways. Which, interestingly, my
Yeah.
next step was along the Wendy's route, and I had a long career with Wendy's and their agency.
Oh,
Before
okay.
Donatos.
So different positions within that organization?
Yeah, so we when our little agency dissolved, I had my own business for a little bit, and there was a gentleman in town who was picking up all the local marketing business for Wendy's. Wendy's had changed ad agencies from Dancer Fitzgerald Sample, if you remember that name, to Backer and Spielvogel, which was a big New York firm.
Mm-hmm.
And what they didn't want, the radio tags and the signs and the POP and all that stuff. So he put together an agency for that. So I joined him. We eventually were bought out by Backer and Spielvogel. So I worked on the agency side on the Wendy's business. It was purely for Wendy's,
Gotcha.
and did that for a few years. And then Wendy's recruited me hard to come work for them. And I ended up working there for about 15 years. I was vice president of marketing when I left Wendy's. So I worked with Dave Thomas hand in hand, personally worked with him directly during the big, campaign with Dave Thomas. It was fantastic.
And the burger wars, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Best burgers in the business, as he used to say. Best burgers in the business.
Love it. Love it. And the square burger.
Uh-huh. That's right. He used to say the reason that they're square is we don't cut corners. He was a very corny
Oh,
guy,
I like that. No
but it
kidding.
was
Yeah, there's a hook for you. That's
yeah,
awesome.
he was an amazing person. I was very
Yeah.
fortunate to be able to work with him.
Wow. Well, would you say he was a mentor in any way?
He was. I mean, we didn't have his, I was a young junior executive. I would go with him on the television commercial shoots. His wife was on him about his weight, so she made him walk every day. So when he would go to New York to go on these TV commercial shoots, they'd say Dave wants to go for a walk around the block on Lexington Avenue. Kraus, you go with him. So I have the job. I used to walk Dave Thomas. That was one of my jobs. It was pretty cool, but what
Awesome.
an amazing guy. I don't know if you ever got a chance to meet him or
Never
talk.
did. Never did. But what amazing, interesting conversations you must have had, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. He was,
Yeah.
he didn't graduate from high school. He was adopted. He, he would use the wrong words for things sometimes. And at times I thought, is this all an act? But he was genuinely, um, simple in the business. He took the complex and really made it simple. And he was right on about all of it. And not just about the business aspects, but about people. He was a tremendous judge of people. He would quickly kind of assess who you were and how to get the best out of you. My first week on the job, I was told you're going on a plane. This is when I got hired by Wendy's. So I
Mhm.
came on to Wendy's and said,
Yeah.
you're going to fly on the company plane with the senior vice president of strategy and somebody else and Dave Thomas, and you're going to fly to talk to this franchisee about something he was doing they shouldn't be doing. So I'm nervous as all could be. I'm sitting on the private jet. I'm on the jump seat, like writing, scribbling, and I can feel that somebody's looking at me. I can tell there's eyes on me. And I look back and Dave's just kind of staring at me. he says, so what do you do? I'm so nervous. I go, well, I'm a junior assistant new product marketing manager. He says, so what do you do?
Awesome.
So I thought
Hot seat.
I'll describe a project for them. So
Yeah.
I go into detail about we're going to test the big classic cheeseburger, and we're going to have two stores. There'll be controls, and then we'll have test stores, and we're going to put a second slice of cheese on it. We're going to measure pre to post, blah blah blah. And I'm like, I'm dying. He goes, so you're going through all of that to find out whether customers want more cheese on their cheeseburger. And I went, oh boy, there's a lesson right there. You asked me whether I learned some lessons. There's some lessons right there. You know, don't make things more complicated than they really are.
Unbelievable. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I could totally feel the pressure. I'm on that plane with you, and I'm like, okay, I'm a young person, and there's the CEO and the founder of Wendy's, and he's looking at me funny. And, my first thought being on a plane is, should I be really outgoing and engage people in conversation, or should I just kind of, be seen and not heard as a young person with senior executives? It's like all these thoughts are going through your head. It's like, do I make an impression positively or negatively? And what should I do, this or that? And it's like, wow.
That's exactly, yeah. And I thought I'm just going to sit here because they don't want to
Yep.
talk to me. And who
Right.
wants to talk to me? The founder of the company wants to talk.
Awesome.
It was
That's
great.
great.
It was amazing.
What happened next? What happened after Wendy's?
So I joined Wendy's, and I worked my way through the marketing department. Lots of stories there, but I ended up I was kind of second in command to their CMO at the time,
Mhm.
and Donato's had just been purchased by McDonald's. So back in 1999, McDonald's bought controlling interest of Chipotle. They bought Boston Market outright, and they bought a pizza company because they wanted, kind of like Yum Brands. They wanted to have
Diversification.
exactly. They called it
Yeah.
share of stomach. They wanted to own
That
the
makes
share of
sense.
stomach,
Right. In
and
all relevant categories and only
yeah,
relevant categories.
exactly. And with us, Donato's, they were looking for quality. They were looking for the a culture or the people. And as a family run business, which I'll tell you a lot more about our culture here, which is amazing, but
Yes.
they saw it and they liked it. And so they uh, quickly were building their team to take over the world, And so I was approached while I was at Wendy's. I was happy at Wendy's, super happy actually. The only hitch was the CMO, who I would eventually hopefully replace, was only 5 years older than me. And I thought, gosh, I don't know, this could take forever. And I could go over here and lead this organization. Also a quality brand, also founder led, uh, still Columbus, Ohio. I didn't have to move.
Made
I
sense.
all the resources of McDonald's. So I made the tough decision to
Yeah.
leave Wendy's and join this Donato's. As I tell the story, when I was young, I fell in love with Donato's pizza, the pizza itself. Then I fell in love with their job offer. Then I fell in love with the company. And then I fell in love with the founder's daughter, who is my wife now. So,
No kidding.
yeah,
Oh, there's a story unto itself.
are you tell?
Oh,
I'm all
wow. All the way to the executive suite, and I married the founder's daughter.
exactly. I like to complete the job.
Yep. Good for you.
Let's go all the way. So,
Oh,
but
man.
that didn't come till later. So I
Okay. Yep.
joined. I
Yeah.
joined in 2000, and I
Mhm.
was McDonald's owned us for 4 years. Long story short, for them, their stock hit an all time low, and Wall Street really was pressuring them, like
Divest.
get
Yeah.
get focused on your core business. Even though we weren't really a real distraction, that we were
Mhm.
at least a perceived distraction to Wall Street. So they ended up selling Chipotle, Boston Market, and they were going to either sell or close down Donato's. And my wife wasn't my wife at the time, but the daughter of our founder, Jim Grody, went into her dad's office. Even, I know, Dad, you sold this, and this is the American dream and all that, but we got to buy it back. And the way she tells the story, she said, Dad, I need you because you're smart. I need you because you're charismatic, but mostly I need your money. And so, because I don't have enough to buy it back. So the family bought the company back. I stayed on. I'm one of the owners of the business, and we've been on a real run ever since. So
Do you recall how many stores there would have been when you joined and then McDonald's 4 years later sold it and where you are now? Just sort of a
we had a
timeline of
hundred,
stores.
about 130 when I joined.
Yep.
They McDonald's got it up to almost 200, but then they closed down 3 markets. They were taking a write off, and
Hmm.
there were a couple of markets. Their strategy, which was similar to McDonald's strategy, like international, they go into a market and they just build and build and build. They'd lose money for 10 years until they, had the market share. And then like France was a great example of that. They were doing that with us, but the problem was midway through the process of entering markets, they changed their strategy. So we ended up selling the Atlanta market, Philly market, and Orlando. So now we're back we're not in Philly, but we're back in Orlando and Atlanta now. So we've got about 460 total locations today.
Wow.
A couple hundred
Awesome.
of them are traditional. About 250 or so are part of Red Robin, which I don't know if you've heard of
Yes. Yeah,
that.
we have a Red Robin down the road from us. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
familiar. They had a female CEO, if they still don't, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. Denny Post.
Hmm.
She was the person that reached out to us
Yep.
about the idea of doing some sort of partnership. And that was maybe 5 years ago. She's moved on. GJ Hart is their CEO now. He was with Texas Roadhouse for a long time, Torchy's Tacos, California Pizza Kitchen. So he
Okay.
knows a little bit about pizza, which is great.
Let's
He's
shift
doing.
gears a little bit. Let's talk about, in such a saturated segment, pizza, of course. What's your competitive advantage?
Yeah, so we've got the distinct advantage of having a clear point of difference in a big category. I love that. You know, the upstart, the new ideas, the new categories, they make me nervous because they may not be as exciting a few years from now. So
Yeah.
pizza's certainly established. It's about $50 billion category. Where
Wow.
we
50
where we
billion.
stand in the consumer's mind, and we did a lot of consumer work, and customers really kind of bifurcate the market into two chunks. One, they call it default pizza, and no offense to Domino's or Papa John's or Pizza Hut, but it's more chain pizza. The quality is not the highest quality, but it's good enough. But it's convenient. It's got a value. Technology is involved, so that's like easy. And then over on the other side, they would call it local goodies. They might be mom and pops, or they might be kind of some of these younger upstart, more hipper brands, which the quality is strong, but they don't have the convenience, the delivery, the value, the technology.
Hmm.
We're in this perfect white space that we've got a super high quality product, and we've researched it against just about every pizza in the business, and customers tell us that we have lots of toppings. We call it edge to edge toppings, so
Hmm.
thin crust toppings on top all the way to the edge. Like a pepperoni pizza has a lot of pepperoni on it. And people say, well, what's a lot? 30? I go, no. 40? No. It's 100. We have 100 pieces of pepperoni on a large pizza. And that's just unique in the marketplace.
It is. Let me ask you a question about that. So, portion
Yeah.
controls, especially in this age of rising costs and inflation and food costs and all that kind of stuff to maintain margins, are those pre-portioned pieces of pepper? Like, how do you? I mean, I'm sure the guy's not counting 1, 2, 3, and putting 100 pieces on there. Like, how do you do that, and how do you maintain consistency
Yeah.
in
For a
400
while
something
for a
units?
while we only hired math graduates from Ohio State. No, I'm just kidding. No, actually,
Yeah.
it's a great question because our system is we weigh every topping to 100th of a pound. So
Hmm.
when a ticket comes in, it says, banana peppers 0.4,
Yep. Yep.
4. That,
Gotcha.
so we weigh the pepperoni until it hits the weight, and we know that weight equals at least 100 pepperonis or more. So now the great thing about the system is depending on inflation or commodity costs or operational excellence or whatever, we're going to have the same pizza every time. It's not a franchisee isn't gonna, take a scoop and go, let's maybe put half the scoop on here this time because I'm dealing with a bad month last month. It's the same product every single time.
Has
And
to be.
so
Yep.
so customers, and they notice it
Oh,
too.
of
They
course they
notice
do.
the
Yeah.
exact same
If
pizza.
you're a fan, it's like you expect it to be consistent in Orlando, Columbus, San Francisco. It's like wherever you go, it's like you want a Donato's pizza to be edge to edge exactly as I had it the last time, regardless of where I had it.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful looking pizza
Mhm.
because it's got all these pepperonis on it, and so so quality is the main piece, but we're great at delivery
Yep.
and online
I agree.
ordering is about 80% of our business. So we've got a great technology platform. We've got a we've been doing delivery forever, a great delivery platform. And so that piece in the middle, you got the default pizza over here and the local goodies.
Yep.
We call it premium
Mm.
pizza delivered is kind of what that's not a ad slogan, but that's
Sure.
really what our positioning is. So great
Gotcha.
question, but that's why we do in the top 90th percentile of volume of other pizza places. Most average pizza place in America is about a $800,000 AUV, and we're well over 1.25 or 1.3, and that's kind of the basis for our recent growth spurt has been great quality, great financials, and now we've got scale to go nationwide.
Do you do any LTOs or how often do you sort of do menu R&D focus groups, bring in new products or new pizzas, that sort of thing, just to keep it fresh and round out the regular consistent menu?
Yeah, we do. We want to make sure we're balanced, that we're not going too hard on all new products all the time. But I
Mhm.
would say probably half of the marketing events in a year has something new. And not they're not always, the highest sales we've ever seen, but they communicate something also about the brand. When we're doing something that is a little bit on the cutting edge in food, that says something about who we are. We add fresh mozzarella balls, or our Hawaiian pizza has cinnamon and sliced almonds. They're kind of upmarket type ingredients that you're not always going to see at least you're not going to see in the big chain pizzas. So yeah, we are probably our most successful introduction of recent years has been our cauliflower crust pizza, which I got to be honest, and my gray hair is showing my age here, but I thought cauliflower crust,
My wife would be all over that.
oh my gosh, it is so good.
Uh-huh.
It took us a little while to find the right, combination, but it is so good, and it's gluten free, and
Yeah.
it's got a health halo, and it's a little bit, kind of food forward. So it's been a good one.
Listen, when I ran restaurants, I had my core values, the things most important to how I ran my restaurants: monitoring daily operations, training my team for consistently great guest experiences, food safety, quality assurance, and preventative maintenance. All this took a system. Well, here's what Xenia can do. Xenia gives you a modern app, really an operational base camp that scales standard operating procedures, trains your team, controls operations, and even manages food safety. Now, I really like their sensors that continuously monitor temperature for fridges and freezers so you can proactively prevent inventory losses. Now, how valuable is that? Now, whether managing a single or multiple locations, the Xenia app helps you ensure consistency, compliance, and accountability across your operation. You can see full detail in real time from anywhere in your Xenia dashboard with automated reports right to your inbox. Now, again, this was vital in my restaurants. Xenia is offering my listeners white glove service with free onboarding and implementation so you can jump straight into immediate usage and value. Xenia starts at just $69 per month per location. So get my special deal at www.xenia.team/rockstars. Xenia is spelled Xenia. So I mention this because my wife is gluten-free, but she's also dairy-free. And,
Okay.
she uses a cheese called Daya, which is like a
Yeah.
dairy-free cheese. I don't know how big that is, but is that something that you need to have, both a gluten-free crust and sort of a dairy-free, because you don't want to lose that segment of people that are either lactose intolerant or they just, for health reasons, they just cut back on dairy?
It's a constant job for us to find the right intersection. Is there
Mm,
enough of a need?
exactly. Right.
Because, if there's not enough of a need,
Doesn't make sense.
you end up throwing away more product than you're
Hmm.
selling. And so
Exactly. Yep.
we got to be sensitive to our operators about those kinds of things. But, I'd rather be a little bit ahead on all that because, if you measure the trends and when the trends, like gluten free, we were ahead of about everybody. And at first, it wasn't that big of a sales mix, but it's grown and grown and grown. Cauliflower is the same thing. So we've tested a diet cheese, and we've had it in a number of stores. I think it'll probably come back at some point in time, but these food sensitivities are real. They
No
really
question. Yeah. And it seems like there's more and more popping up all the time. And obviously, you can't please all the people all the time. We really try to offer something for everyone. And if they've got dietary needs and restrictions, you want to be known for that as opposed to, no, we just do it one way. So you're right. It's a real balance out there.
Yeah, it really is. And
Yeah.
it can be very difficult for some people. I mean, people in the worst case with like nut allergies or on the other hand, people with celiac disease,
Hmm.
like I want to say 20 years ago, we introduced a pizza with, we called it no dough. It didn't have a crust. It was really one of the first kind of bowl ideas. So it was all the
Mm.
toppings without the crust. And we got these most heartfelt letters from people who suffer from celiac who finally I can have pizza again. Finally, I can be with my family, when they all want to go out and have pizza. Because, a lot of times people, and a lot of them are kids or, feel left out. And so, yeah, this no dough pizza that we did years ago just took off. We ended up being on the Today Show and,
Awesome. That's
you know,
great marketing.
yeah,
Can't
it
beat
was,
that.
well, it was funny because it was right at the height of, uh, the Atkins diet. You remember the
I
Atkins diet?
do. I absolutely do. Yep.
And we'd walk past the conference room where people were eating pizza. We'd see all these crusts left on the table. We're like, is there something wrong with our crust? And no, it was all these people on the Atkins diet. And so we kind of this no dough, we hit it at just the right time.
Perfect. No kidding.
I
Took
mean,
off.
yeah, 6 months earlier probably would have been a bust. 6 months later might have been a bust, but it took off. Those are
And
fun
then
times.
Yeah, then there's a fine line between, okay, when do we cut this because the trend is over and it's not going to continue
Yeah.
without, continuing to go down that road. So, God, it's a
Yeah.
balance.
Yeah, we've got a great menu team who
Mhm.
they stay ahead of it and they're very well educated and
Yeah.
we got a few interesting things in the works right now. So there's always something.
I'm sure there's no 2 days alike in your world, but what's a typical day like for Tom Kraus?
Typical day. Well, I do. I'm doing a lot more in the community. I I'm a musician of sorts. I'm a songwriter, and I'm involved in a nonprofit here in town that's
Hmm.
helps support musicians and helps Columbus get recognized as a music city, which it really is. And so
Nice.
I
Yeah.
do I do some work with that. So I have a varied day. I might I might be at a club watching a young band trying to help them late at night, one night, and then the next morning I work out every morning, so I'm up early, and then I get into the office. I'm always in the office. I work at home sometimes, but not that often. I like being here. I meet with our president and our CFO and Jane, my wife, pretty consistently. I'm in one team meeting now because I'm trying to allow the team to really kind of take the lead. My job really is to number one, make sure that we're fulfilling our overall cultural mission. Number two, that we allow the team to build plans that will achieve the results that we want to get. And the third is to take away barriers that exist so that people can achieve what we already said we're achieving. What I drove me crazy is working for past bosses who micromanaged or got in the way or just came up with new things that got in the way of the big rocks that we were working on. So I'm real sensitive to that, and so I'm a helper, I guess is what I would say my job is to really be a helper.
Sounds like you're finding a work-life balance. We talked about working out every day, doing healthy habits. You've got a vocation in music. You like helping outside the community, all that kind of stuff. So that's all tremendous. Let's go a little bit deeper. Two things came up from what you just said. We talked about culture a little bit. So I want to talk about your company culture, but then I also want to talk about you mentioned the boss and the manager. Let's talk about leadership versus management, but let's start with company culture first.
So again, part of my decision to come here was, is it a culture that is meaningful? And Jim Grody, my father-in-law, our founder, when he was 19 years old, he started Donato's Pizza. He dropped out of Ohio State and started at Donato's Pizza because he had worked at some pizza shops. Like his first job was cleaning pans at a pizza shop that had two owners. The one owner was this super friendly, affable guy, not unlike Roger at the country club. Everybody loved him. The associates loved him. The customers loved him. The other partner was more of the numbers guy, and he would calculate and come up and say, if we watered down the sauce at the end of the night, we could make three more pizzas, and that would make this much more money, and blah, 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 blah.
Sure.
And Jim's 13 years old watching this. And interestingly, the nights that the first gentleman worked over time really started to grow in sales. Didn't matter which day of the week it was, but when he worked and when the other guy worked, it would drop in sales. And I bring the story up because Jim noticed at a very early age that if you make a promise to the customer and you treat the customer with respect, the way you would want to be treated, you treat your people with respect, the way they would want to be treated, it may not show up immediately like on a spreadsheet, but eventually over time, and he always called it goodwill, promoting goodwill. If you promote goodwill, it will all come back to you. It will come back to you in spades. And he's 80 years old right now. He's still the majority owner of the company. He's working in an innovation center, inventing equipment for pizza making, believe it or not. So he's not as directly involved in the day-to-day, but the mission of, are we allowing pizza to be the vehicle to create something bigger? And it might be small, it might be big. And when I say small, I say, we hire 14, 15-year-olds. A lot of companies don't do that because of all the labor fines that you could get, and it's difficult. But we know that some young kids, maybe their family life is not great. They're not getting life lessons that will help guide them and make them successful in the future. Or maybe this is just work as an opportunity to hear a lesson that, like my own son, at a certain point he quit listening to me, but when he got a job at Donato's, that was a whole nother level for him. So it's things like, we make it a point to hire 14, 15-year-olds. We hire people with past criminal records that we think, need and deserve a second chance.
Awesome.
We give back to the community. We give you a pizza that's got more pepperoni on it than it needs to. So we call it a company that gives more than it receives. Yeah, we get $16 from you, but what we're going to give back is so much more. So this pizza with a purpose is really kind of, I don't know if that's a phrase, but and everybody loves pizza, right? I mean, that's the great thing about the food
we all
business.
do, for sure.
But pizza especially, it's hard to find somebody who doesn't like pizza. You might find somebody that doesn't like octopus or calamari or something like that.
Of course.
So it's such a universal attraction that if we can take that universal attraction and do something good with it. My wife and father-in-law started a nonprofit in Columbus that is really changing people's lives. And if it wasn't for Donato's and the pizza, that wouldn't be happening. And so you ask about culture, that's the culture. The culture is, how can we honor what we get to do, which is to serve the best pizza by making people's day a little bit better. Might be a little bit, might be a lot, but that is more than a transaction. And it kind of leads into your other point about manager versus leader. When I think about, when you were saying that to me, I think about managing is, even the word itself is kind of like, I'm trying to like not mess things up. I'm trying to manage. I'm managing it. And it can feel more like a transaction. But leadership is more about bringing a higher purpose. If a leader is going to make someone who works for them on their team feel valued and feel great about what they're doing, and will allow them to do more than they ever thought they could do, right? I mean, I'll ask you what your definition of leadership is, but I see that as one of the aspects. And boy, that's a much higher purpose than managing the P&L, managing inventory, managing the schedule. Those are tasks, but inspiring and motivating people to be the best version of themselves. Man, that's cool.
That's powerful stuff. When you said managing, the first thing that came to mind was I need to control things,
Control.
including my people. I need to control them. I need to control the bottom line. I need to control this, that, and the next thing. And that takes me back to your story about the guy that was a little too focused on the finances versus being affable and really being, teamwork, respect, and
Right.
inspiring people versus, water down the spaghetti sauce or the pasta sauce or the pizza toppings or whatever it was. But that was a really good analogy that you made. And I think that's the distinction. It's like leaders recognize talent in others and they give people opportunities and they don't criticize, they critique, and they try to make people better than what they believe that those people can do on their own. And then when those people reach great heights, then they're recognized and rewarded for that achievement. And I think that lowers turnover in organizations. It creates a esprit de corps, they used to say in the
For
Marine Corps and
sure.
all that sort of thing. And
You
yeah,
know,
that's
and
it. That's what it's about.
and it provides clarity too. I think
Hmm.
the best leaders are clear about uh, no matter how you create that vision, hopefully you create it with your team. But when you create that vision, it's clear what that vision is, and everybody's clear about what their potential contribution is to get there. That's like you walk in a restaurant, you owned restaurants.
Yes.
The restaurants that run the best are the ones where the people on the team know what's expected of them, and they have an opportunity to contribute to that vision, which is really cool.
Yeah, I think a lot of managers are sort of losing focus and wondering why are my people not performing? And part of it is the accountability isn't there. Okay, you need to make it crystal clear to every new employee and even existing line people what is expected of them, and giving them a clear direction with a job description that they understand, they know they can perform. If they have any questions, you demonstrate, you show them until they demonstrate competency. But then a really strong leader understands what every position in a restaurant is about. And maybe you could do it yourself and maybe you can't, but at least you know what expectations should be. And if those people go sideways with those expectations, that's when you've got the accountability with the clear description that was signed off on, hopefully by the employee when he was first hired, or if you're just rolling out this program. And then you can pull them aside in private. And,
Yeah.
this is something I used to do. And I'd say, you agreed that we were going to do it this way, and I'm seeing it going that way. But I never said, now go out there and I expect you to do it this way. I always threw the ball back in their court and said, how can you get back on track? What can you do to get your performance that we all agreed was what was expected? And now they know I'm watching, and they're going to go out there and they either have to fix the behavior, correct it to improve, or else they know I'm going to see them again. And nobody wants to talk twice about an episode.
Yeah.
So that's accountability right there. And then there should be a performance review, regular performance reviews that let people know how they're doing. But then weekly recognition rewards programs that really, single people out for going above and beyond and solving a guest issue or delivering amazing hospitality or helping a team member, whatever it is. I mean, we did all these things, and I'm sure
Yeah.
Donato's does many similar things. What are your what are your philosophies on leadership style, and how do you expect store owner franchisees to onboard people, train people, and make sure that, well, they have to ensure a consistent experience through their people?
Yeah. I've had this uh, philosophy or theme called APE.
Yes. Okay. What's that?
Part of the reason I like it is because you could be as intelligent as an ape and understand it, but
Hmm.
where I see things go wrong, and this is in a store or in a department or in a company, is There isn't, uh, A stands for alignment,
Okay.
P stands for plan, and E stands for execution, which includes accountability.
Gotcha.
And when things aren't going well, it's one of those three things. You might, I remember walking into a restaurant. And I go, "What are you guys doing?" They're blowing up balloons and they're putting up banners and for a kids program, and I'm like, so why are you doing that? Well, I couldn't get a clear answer. So were you aligned that the problem that you had is you didn't have enough families? Is that the problem? Or is the problem that your service times at the window are poor? Because you can look at that and analyze the business and say, the biggest thing we've got to focus on is improving our service times at the window. If we improve service times on the window, then we will achieve what we want to achieve. Well, that takes sitting down, first of all, thinking a little bit. Secondly, as a team agreeing, that's the alignment, that this is what we're going to focus on. And maybe there's two things, maybe there's three things, but make sure you're aligned on what is the issue that you're trying to solve in your store. Because if you're already off planning and executing something without a real understanding, you ain't going to get. Somebody used to say, "You're making I don't know where I'm going, but I'm making good time." It's like you've got a lot of activity and people thrive. It's like an adrenaline rush.
Of
We're
course.
doing something.
Yeah.
Now, on the other hand, you might be aligned and understand what the real issue is, but you really haven't put a plan in place. You've talked about it, you've complained about it, you've maybe blamed somebody else about it, but you're aligned. We have a problem. We have let's call it a value perception. People think we're too high priced, and we want to talk about it all the time. Well, we need to, what's the plan? Yeah, this sounds so simple, and that's why it's ape. But if you don't have a plan, you're never going to be able to accomplish the objective, which is what you're aligned to. And then finally, if you're not holding people accountable to execute against that plan, you're not going to. I guarantee you, if there's a problem of underperformance in one of our restaurants, it's one of those three things. So keeping that kind of mental model in mind all the time, I do it all the time. I kind of wander around and go, "Ooh, we got an alignment problem over here. We got an execution problem over here." Now, that's maybe I'm not answering your specific question about how do we on board and get people excited, but the those that have a plan that is aligned, those are the ones that will succeed, and those are the ones that and talk about leadership. Those are the ones that, like I said, it's clear what our job is. What's my role in it? Well, I can be the outside order taker. Let's try that. Oh wow, our service times went up. Oh wow, our sales went up. Our customers are more happy. Our overall satisfaction scores went up. It's taking the complex and making it simple is and don't you find that? Didn't you find that in your restaurants? I'm sure a big part of what made you successful was you were able to take all the noise and all customers, associates, and trucks are being delivered, and you would keep people focused on what the most important things are.
Yeah, you're talking about systems now, Tom. I
Yeah.
learned a long time ago, work on your business, not in your business, or else the business runs you. You're not running the business. And that's where if you empower your people, and I love the word empowerment. We talked earlier about the difference between leadership and management. There's also a huge difference between delegation and empowerment. Anybody can tell somebody what to do or even how to do it, but very few people can empower people to rise to challenges and run the place like, you would if you were there. And if
Yeah.
you've got these systems in place, I love to say this. It's like you can walk away from the business for a day, a week, or a month. And when you come back, the place is still humming on all cylinders because
You,
of that foundation that you laid with your team.
you have to you have to take the time to make sure it's like teaching your kid how to ride a bike. There's a intellectual part. You're going to move your pedals quick. You're
Mhm.
going to sit up straight, and then we're going to try it. And I'm going to hold your seat a few times. And then at that time, when you let go of the seat and they're doing it on their own, they think your hand's still there. They look back and they go, "Holy crap! I'm
I remember
amazing!
that.
I'm
You're bringing me
amazing!"
back to childhood. But you know what? There's a line. there's alignment, there's plan, and there's execution in that too.
That is true.
It's like applicable to every part of life. It is so simple. That seems to me like it's a core operating philosophy of Donato's, and that's passed down to every store. I'm sure it is.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we could do a better job of passing it down. I know it's in my head all the time, but
I think it's wonderful. I think it's
yeah,
great. Really
cool.
effective stuff. Let's talk about marketing. How do
Yeah.
you market the business, and how do you set yourself apart from the competition in this segment called pizza? What works?
And the challenge, because we're in a fast casual or QSR, you might say. So we're in a
Yep,
broad category. We're going up against you know a, millions and millions of dollars of competitive advertising and things like that.
of
So
course.
for us,
A lot of
our
clutter out there.
yeah, and we're a little higher price than our commodity type competitors. So
Hmm.
our biggest job is to find that balance between creating a call to action, whether it's a new product news or it's a maybe a promotion or a deal, and what sets us apart. And if we drain the bank account of reinforcing our unique selling proposition at the expense of daily, weekly sales driving messages, we're going to lose kind of core muscle about what makes us different. On the other hand, it can't all just be brand marketing and all that. So for us, because we're in a 40-50 billion dollar category, but we're different, we're in fact we're in the process of kind of re-looking at how do we position Donato's to be worth that price. Our value rate, we're the highest rated on quality, variety, consistency, healthfulness. I mean, all these great attributes versus everybody. Value is the one that is our Achilles heel because we're higher priced. But what that means for us is we've got to make sure people understand that it's worth the extra dollar. And so that's a tricky job. That's
Definitely.
leveraging, the product difference is abundance. We've got more pepperoni. We're edge to edge. We have more flavors. And, I talked to you about specialty tastes like almonds and cinnamon and, fresh mozzarella and all those kinds of things. How do you take all that and make a bigger statement? We're actually working on kind of introducing a whole new way to talk about Donato's here next year. But look at Chipotle. They're able to charge more than Taco Bell. Look at Starbucks. They're able to charge more than Dunkin'. You've got to be the best version of who you are. So, that's the marketing piece really is about balancing sales driving messages and the thing that makes us different from our brand. And that's not easy all the time.
You're touching on a really, really important message that our audience really needs to take away. Depending on your price point and the value proposition and all this, we're still dealing with volatile food costs. And when you've taken a stance for one, quality, and two, not skimping on topics and all this kind of stuff, and sure, you might charge a little more, but you still have to maintain margins. You're not doing anything unscrupulous like that story you told about watering down the pizza sauce, but you got to maintain margins and also maybe you're not spending as much on marketing as the other guy. Do you consider this sort of a marketing expense if your food costs go up a little bit, but you're marketing less, but that's a piece of marketing because people see you as a clear leader based on, your quality and the overabundance that you're providing? Like, where is that balance?
A lot of good in a lot of good content in your question there. I think on one level, yes, you're right. You can't just work off of a percent food cost on all products and say this is the
Hmm.
certain products. In fact, we
Right.
just looked at something the other day that's super high quality, unique pizza that not sure anybody's done, and it's a great food item. But to do it right, we're going to have to take a bite on food costs a little bit.
Hmm.
That's just the nature of the beast.
It
Now,
is, yeah.
all in all, you've got to have an economic model that works. We do two things. One is we do a lot to hedge cheese. Cheese is our biggest expense.
Of course. Yep.
So, every day, every hour, commodities,
Hmm.
the futures markets change.
Right, right.
And we've set up we call it a cheese account so that we're not passing everything on to the stores, our franchise partners, we have a cheese account that kind of flattens the cost of cheese. Because what happens is if you don't do that and cheese goes way up and food cost goes way up, because we can't dictate pricing with our franchise system, they might, charge way too high of a price, lose transactions. Or on the other hand, if prices go down, we can't count on that forever. So we try to smooth out the food cost on cheese.
Of course,
we also make our own dough, and we operate at a net income break even. We're not in the business of making money off of the ingredients that we send our franchisees. And I'm not, judging other companies that do that. That's their business model. It's just not our business model. Our business model is we have a very low royalty fee. We have our food cost, our dough. We operate at break even so that we want them to make more money, because if they make more money, they're going to build more stores. If they build more stores, we'll end up getting fee income. I'm not worried about that.
Of course.
We're looking at kind of a long game here. So, back to inflation, though, I think it's a balancing act. I think labor inflation is probably the more challenging area. And we're looking for ways to take hours out of the restaurant with monotonous tasks. That's why this innovation center that my father-in-law runs is working on automatic pizza saucing equipment. In fact, we're rolling that out in a number of our stores. So now we don't need those hours on, that. We'll probably look at dishwashers, and you remember how fun that job was, right? Maybe take that job out, and so then they can interact with the customer and make it more fun and actually pay our people more on the other side. So that's part of the equation also.
Let's talk about relationships versus shopping around suppliers. Are you big on relationships, or is it really about you've got so much economies of scale with 460 plus stores? It's like you got so much leverage against suppliers by switching. I mean, does that happen, or where do you stand on that?
Wow. I am so glad you asked that question, because we don't talk about it a lot, but we have long-standing relationships with many of our suppliers, and we treat them. And our head of purchasing has been with us for more than 30 years, and he treats our business partners. We treat our business partners like they're partners. We don't call them vendors. We call them business partners.
I love it.
And for a reason.
Nice. Yes.
Because when times are hard for them, we ought to be able to try to help them out. And when times are hard for us, they're going to help us out. Guess what? During all these shortages, we never ran out of we ran out of maybe souffle cups for a couple of weeks or whatever, but our partners put us up on the list, even though we were smaller than some of their other customers, because of the relationship piece. I'm so glad you asked that question. I think it's one area that I am super proud of, the way we treat our business partners, and I wish other companies would do the same. They kind of think it's like, it's a one-trick pony. Just bang them on the head as hard as you can, get the best price you can, and then pat yourself on the back afterwards. Well, yeah, when times are tough, guess who's last in line? And that's what happened. We didn't run out of pepperoni. I know there was a big hamburger chain that ran out of hamburger. There was a big wing chain that ran out of wings. We didn't run out of pizza. It was, and it's not just running out. They bring us new thinking. They bring us new ideas. We're all
it's a value add. It's not just buying product from a supplier. It's value add. It's the relationship. Exactly. It's the guy who's, driving in his car from the warehouse to deliver something because a store ran out and they need it. It's like, that is commitment, and I've seen that with the relationships I've had with my suppliers. Yeah. And you either have that or you don't. And like you said, when times get tough, it's like, what happens? You're last in line, and now you'll pay the price.
So when do you miss running restaurants?
I don't miss running restaurants. I miss the people, I miss the relationships. I had a unique situation. I mean, we only had seasonal restaurants because, we were at resort operations and stuff
Okay.
where I created. So I had to treat my people so well that I wouldn't have to constantly turn people over and find new staff every year. So we had a 96% retention rate, even though people
Wow.
had to leave and go find other jobs, and they all came back. And it was the chemistry and the team spirit I talked about, and the recognition and rewards and incentives and all that kind of stuff. But it was the fun place.
Yeah.
People, and that's how we built we call it the dream team. It's like you've got A's, B's, and C's. You want to get rid of the C's because those are the people that just show up for the paycheck. You want to take as many of your A's to instill best practices on the B's, just so that, they get to the same level. And then pretty soon you only have A players.
Well, they
And then if
feed
you
on
treat them well, you're gonna keep those people. And
they feed on each other.
right.
I write a weekly kind of column on my LinkedIn. I
Yep.
call it Corner Piece, Business Insights from a Pizza Man. And this last week, the headline is "Enough Already," and the quote is, "The only thing complaining does is convince other people that you are not in control." And I was saying that, if you're a chronic complainer, I hate to tell you, but people are tired of you. And those are bring me a solution. Let's be positive. Let's have fun and be positive. So I love what you're saying.
This leads to a really great question that I need to ask you. You have one question that you ask your employees that I thought just spoke volumes about the way you run the business. What's that one question? And take us into that, because I think everyone can benefit from it.
Yeah, and so I do this with all the people that I meet with, and everybody has, like I told you, we build our plans together. So it's not
Yes.
my plan; it's their plan.
Mm-hmm.
And then life happens somewhere along the plan. So my question is, what is it that I can do to help you take away a barrier to achieving whatever you want to achieve and help you accomplish what you want to accomplish? I ask that every time at the end of the meeting, and then some of them don't think I'm serious, and I say, "Are you sure?" And then some of them say, "Yeah, I need this, this, and that." And then I go off and do this, this, and that, and it unsticks something for them. Something gets unstuck, and they are successful. And it's like it just flips the switch, because it's not a come into Tom to tell him all that I'm doing and hope that I don't get in trouble. It's, hey, here's where I am on this. I'm having a problem with this. Can you help me with it? And then I'm a resource. I was thinking about, what is it? Mr. Rogers always talked about the helpers. I was thinking our job really is to be helpers. We've already built the plan, so now you just need help in, getting something unstuck.
Well, that takes me back to being on the airplane with Dave Thomas, and he's like,
Yeah.
"What do you do?" And it's like you're actually giving your people a voice and letting them know that their opinion matters and that their ideas matter, and this would be important to me to help me do a better job, a more productive job, make my job more fun, whatever it is. I mean, that leads to longevity and low turnover if you really care and ask. Because if you don't ask, you don't get. I noticed that. I've always thought that. So,
And
excellent.
as I say in my column, I'm not perfect at any of this stuff, but I believe in certain philosophies, as you do, that we always strive to be better, and I think these are some of the things that we can do to be leaders instead of managers, to be inspiring instead of controlling. I think you're exactly right.
That's terrific. Let's talk really quickly. Last question. Let's talk about the franchise opportunity and what you really look for in new operators. And are you looking for exclusives or multi-unit operators, people that are going to build a Donato's empire within a certain territory? And what's the training like?
Yeah. So the franchise opportunity. So it's really taking off here lately, and I think I mentioned the Red Robin partnership. The thing that did, our product is what makes us different. It's the quality of the product. Now, the way we got to that quality product, my father-in-law has very specific need. Every ingredient is custom. I mean, we're not like a lot of restaurant companies. You show up and order, send me some cheese and some sauce. Everything's custom, which is great. It makes for a great pizza. It makes it hard to scale because you can't send a truckload of ingredients to Reno, Nevada. Now that we have Red Robin, we've gone from 6 distribution houses to 26. So we can now franchise nationwide. We've been saying no to 80% of the inquiries. We're now saying yes. So that's opened up. the quality of the product is number one. The company that is bigger than the pizza, a little higher purpose, and then the cash flow, the unit economics, and the return on investment are tremendous. And we've hadn't always been that way, but it is today, and we've worked real hard on that. So we're not doing master agreements. We're doing traditional franchise agreements as low as 3 store deals. And it could be higher depending on the situation. We're looking, obviously, for people that are more interested in running a franchise and not their own restaurant. They've got to have that kind of mindset. I'm willing to follow the system. So we're looking, for that.
It's funny you mentioned that. I was on an airplane not so long ago, and that movie about Ray Kroc called The Founder came on. And that was a really fascinating story. We all know that a franchise, it's all about following, the system, or else the system just falls apart. It's like you got to maintain that consistency. And when he first started franchising, it's like you got to have the burgers exactly a certain way, put the certain amount of ketchup and mustard on the, all that kind of stuff. And these guys over here bringing in fried chicken, and he's like, "What's going on?" It's like, yeah, it's just funny.
The thing that my old boss, the CEO of Wendy's, Jim Neer, God rest his soul, he used to call franchising batteries not included. And that's kind of what we look for. We look for somebody that we've got the concept and the systems and all that.
The framework and the structure is intact and it works.
What we need is your leadership, and that means somebody is willing. And it may not be them exactly. They may have an operating partner, but somebody is willing to get involved in the community, which is fun, but it's not a passive investment. And it's also different maybe than the burger business where, you've got 10,000 transactions a week and you're just, managing production. This is about getting involved in Little League and the churches and the car dealerships and things like that. So you got to have some of that in your batteries.
Right. Yes.
And willing to grow. And you've got to match our culture. You've got to really want to do something that's bigger and different, and you got to treat your people well. That's the name of the game.
That's awesome. Tom, what have we missed? Is there anything else you want to share with us? Great stories, best practices, great advice, insights, a long history and track record and excellence in the hospitality space. You've done a great service to our industry. Anything else you want to share?
I'm honored to work for the Grody family that I work for. My father-in-law's he's 80 years old this year. The company's 60 years old.
Awesome.
And he's still going at it. And so I'm just honored to have had the opportunity to work for somebody like Jim Grody and somebody like Dave Thomas. But I really appreciate the time today.
I've really enjoyed speaking to you. This is amazing. Thanks for being a great guest on the podcast.
Thanks.
Thanks to our audience for tuning in, and we hope you all stay well and stay tuned. Thank you so much, Tom, for being a fantastic guest. What a dynamic conversation, and what a powerful way to run the business and to really inspire people and lead an organization forward. You're definitely a testament to this industry, and we all appreciate everything that you shared with us today. Thank you to our audience for tuning in. Thanks to our sponsors, and we can't wait to see you next time. Don't miss it.
People go to restaurants for lots of reasons. For fun, celebration, for family, for lifestyle. What the customer doesn't know is the thousands of details it takes to run a great restaurant. This is a high-risk, high-fail business. It's hard to find great staff. Costs are rising and profits are disappearing. It's a treacherous road, and smart operators need a professional guide. I'm Roger. I've started many highly successful, high-profit restaurants that I've now sold for millions of dollars. I'm passionate about helping other owners and managers not just succeed, but knock it out of the park. I created a game-changing system, and it's filled with everything I've learned in over 20 years running super profitable, super fun restaurants. Everything from creating high-profit menu items and cost controls, to staff training where your teams serve and sell, to marketing hooks, money-maximizing tips, and efficiencies across your operation. What does this mean to you? More money to invest in your restaurant, to hire a management team, time freedom, and peace of mind. You don't just want to run a restaurant. You want to dominate your competition and create a lasting legacy. Join the Academy and I'll show you how it's done.
Thanks for listening to the Restaurant Rockstars podcast. For lots of great resources, head over to restaurantrockstars.com. See you next time.